What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is a request from one of my patrons, and it's one of two requests. And I've kind of done a variation of this video before. So the request was, in my opinion, how would Michael Jordan have done had he played his entire career in the Western Conference instead of the Eastern Conference? And the easiest way to do this, in my opinion, the easiest way to do this is to make the assumption that in the 1984 NBA draft, Stu Inman, the general manager for the Portland Trailblazers, drafts Michael Jordan with the second overall pick because the first overall pick was Akeem Olajuwon. You make the assumption that in this alternate reality, he picks Michael Jordan instead of picking Sam Bowie. Because at that time, younger people don't understand Michael Jordan was seen as a good player, a really good player, but he was not projected to be the guy that he became. Like, he was projected more to be sort of maybe a Jerry Stackhouse, Michael Finley type player. A really good player, but not type player you can build a championship team around. That's what he was expected to be coming out of North Carolina, at least to the masses. Now, the people who actually saw him play one-on-one and knew how the North Carolina system was hiding what he really was capable of, they knew better. Those who scouted him knew better. As a matter of fact, Bobby Knight told the general manager of Portland to draft Michael Jordan, and he said we didn't need a guard. We already had Clyde Drexler. And he said, Bobby Knight told him, man, draft Jordan. If you got to play him at center, draft Michael Jordan, because at that time it was pretty much figured that teams had to build around centers. Not like today where it's more perimeter orientated and you draft talent and then make changes or trades elsewhere to accommodate other needs. It was considered that the league ran on big men: Kareem, Moses, Wilt, Bill Russell, Willis Reed, etc. Bill Walton. It was a big man's league. And Sam Bowie had potential. It's just that his career was ruined by injuries. But had they drafted Michael Jordan, both Clyde Drexler and Jordan had indicated before that they felt that they could have accommodated one another. Now, Jordan may not have averaged 30 points per game playing with Clyde Drexler, but they would have worked it out because Clyde in his peak was a superior player to Scottie Pippen. And you got to figure, with the eventual roster that they had, now it may not have been all the same, but because I don't think they would have gotten, what's his name, Buck Williams, because he came with the trade. They eventually traded Sam Bowie. But if the point guard stayed, just think about it like this. Look at what the Bulls team was, right? Now, I understand it was Phil Jackson and triangle offense, but look at what the Bulls team was. You had John Paxson, you had Jordan, Pippen, Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright, right? Now, look at Portland. You got Kevin Duckworth, who was better than any of the Bulls centers, in my opinion. Not an all-star, perennial all-star, not a Hall of Famer, but Kevin Duckworth, when he was in shape, was better than any Bulls center. Being 16 and 10 on any given night. Then in power forward, you had what? I guess in this scenario, you probably had, it'd be Jerome Kersey, right? Then, the small forward would probably have been Clyde Drexler, Jordan at shooting guard. Terry Porter would have been point guard. Terry Porter was better than any point guard that the Chicago Bulls ever had in the Jordan era. Perhaps in this scenario, Drazen Petrovic stays on the team. I don't know. Or maybe he still leaves. Later on, of course, they acquired Danny Ainge. I think with Michael Jordan, Now, granted, the Western Conference, you still had Showtime, so they wouldn't have won no championships, or I don't think they would have been a championship team until maybe the late '80s. Because I mean, the Showtime team was just too good. But you can make an argument that by '88 they could have went to the finals because that Lakers team went 8 games. I mean, she went 7 games with 7 games with Carmelo and John Stockton. So at that point, it was already kind of showing that they have some vulnerability to youth. So you can make an argument that maybe that year they could have broke through, but you definitely could argue that instead of them losing to the Pistons in 1990, they could have beaten them then. They could have beaten any Jordan replacement in '92. You can make an argument that they probably would have won a couple more championships. It's hard to say. You can't give a number on it, but I definitely think that as great a player as Michael Jordan was, they still would have won. And I also tend to think that the Jordan factor still would have led to players who were good becoming Hall of Famers playing with Michael because he would have maximized their talents. He would have maximized all these guys. Kevin Duckworth with the weight issues and all that, playing with Michael Jordan. Hell, Kevin Duckworth might still be alive today. He would have gotten the best out of that guy. Kevin Duckworth would have been an all-star caliber center playing with Michael Jordan. If he got what he got out of those guys, those role players he got, if he got that out of an old Bill Cartwright, he got that out of Luke Longley, trust me, with Kevin Duckworth, Kevin would have been 265, playing at the peak of his game. He would have got the best out of all those guys. I tend to think, being that Drexler was a great rebounding guard, a great passing, that part of his game was underrated. I tend to see him, with his personality, holding back a little bit more scoring-wise and being a much better version of Scottie Pippen. You know what I'm saying? I don't know with all the weapons they had whether Jordan's going to average 30 plus, but I definitely think he's going to average 25 or more. Drexler's going to average probably 21 or so, 8 rebounds. I think his assists would go up, like 7 or 8 assists. Jordan would have a lot more assists, probably like 7. Matter of fact, Jordan's stats may look more similar to LeBron James playing with them. But yeah, if he was in the Western Conference, I'm not sure that it would have been a dynasty per se, especially as they got older. But by that I mean like 6 championships in 8 years. But he still would have won a number of championships. It's hard to say, like, to put a number on it, but I would say minimum 4. Definitely 1990. I think they would have beaten the Bad Boys. Definitely 1992. Probably 1991. They probably would have beaten Magic if Michael was on that team in '91. So that's 3 championships right there. So that would be with a three-peat, right? Yeah. So that would be a three-peat, 90, 91, 92. Possibly 88. I see a lot of years them going to the finals. 89. 88, it would be like a conference finals slugfest between Showtime Lakers and that team. If Kevin Duckworth can win or dominate in shape Kevin Duckworth, a motivated Kevin Duckworth, a possessed Kevin Duckworth can dominate that matchup on that aging Kareem, then they got a chance of winning that series. Because I think it'll be tight considering how loaded and talented the Lakers were. But just trying to think. Great coaching. Jack Ramsey, I think, was the initial coach. Now, Rick Adelman was a coach, obviously, of the 90s Portland Trailblazers teams. Um, but I wonder if they were a championship team earlier, whether, or you can see the potential of that team, whether Ramsey would have stayed around longer. But anyway, whatever the case may be, I think Michael Jordan would be just as spectacular. I don't know about championships. I don't know about MVPs. Those things would have happened. The numbers, I don't know. But the long story short, I still think he would have been phenomenal in the Western Conference. There's more competition in the West back then in the 90s. So I can't say for certain how many championships, but I think they would have won a good amount. His stats wouldn't have been as awesome from a offensive standpoint because there's more talent on the team. But then again, you could still make an argument that, hell, maybe that means they would have won more. And I kind of want to say that, but I don't want to shortchange the talent of the Western Conference either. Because I'm just thinking, does Clyde Drexler still suffer his injury in 92? Because he got hurt in 92. He was never the same player after that. So still was good, but wasn't the same guy. So then maybe you can make an argument that after that, Jordan has to take on more of an offensive load. Perhaps. Maybe they have to get like a third star, to offset the decline in Drexler. These are things you got to look at. But anyway, that's just my take on that, man. Tell me what you guys think.